Dive deep, Commodore. Subwar 2050 on Amigos, everything Amiga. Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about Subwar.
Oh man, yeah.
Subwar.
That's a good name, Subwar 2050.
You know, we've talked about how we both wanted to be spacemen when we were young.
That's right.
Did you ever carry that feeling over into wanting to be a deep sea explorer?
God, no. I feel like deja vu here. But no, I never wanted to, being in a sub would be cool. You know, it'd be cool to go underwater if I could stay dry. I didn't have to, do anything different, I would be down with that. And I would want assurances that I would get back up and out of the water.
Right.
If it's like a boat, but I mean, I don't want to, live there. Like, you remember that? You know how they've got these gimmicks and Bond and stuff where they built these sea towns?
The undersea
or
biosphere.
They float on the sea. Like, who thought that's a good idea? Have they ever watched the sea? It's not like the sea's just tranquil thing just sits there. There's crap going on.
Well, if you're down there at the bottom, remember that show Sea Lab that was on TV?
Yeah. That's a bad example, Boat. That's a real bad example. But
what about Sequest DSV?
I never watched that show, despite its Amiga connection. But I mean, here's the difference. These things are under the sea.
Yes.
Under the sea.
Right.
We're getting a strike for that. But under the sea, there's no waves and crap.
Right.
That's my point. These guys built stuff that's on the sea.
Who are these guys?
Yeah, you ever seen one of the Bond movies? The guy built this aqua town. All right,
really?
I'm sure it had a better name than that. All right, but it was that gimmick that was on the water. Who thought that was a good idea?
That sounds dumb.
It does. Plus, there's all the bad weather and
Yeah.
crap. And plus, when you're under the sea, it's not like it's tranquil. There's currents and crap. Plus, we've polluted the water, so there's all that to deal with.
I feel like if you're down, once you get down below the surface, being under the sea and being in space, not that different.
I think they're plenty different.
Why?
Well, the sea is full of crud.
That's true.
The space is filled with nothing. So there's a difference there. Also, I don't know how pressure works in space. The pressure of space, the vacuum.
I think there's probably pressure up there.
But I mean, is it like if I went into the water, you can go down and then get smashed into a tin can, right? Because the pressure, right? I don't know. Is that work in space the same way?
I don't know that there's that particular risk, but I do know that the cabin is pressurized in space. They do have to do that, but it's
do they?
Yeah,
just put a bunch of air in there.
No, I'm pretty sure because your ears pop and all that
in
stuff.
Space.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I think I heard that guy talk about it from Canada.
So you're just making crap up now. You don't know for sure. What guy from Canada?
The astronaut guy that plays guitar.
Who's that?
You never heard about that guy?
What's his name,
talk
Boat?
to any Canadian and it'll come up in the
Do
first
you know
30
his
seconds.
name?
His name's Mustache Man.
No.
I don't know. But
Astronaut Joe.
Yeah.
That great Canadian.
But I think I remember him talking about that.
I didn't know Canadians had ever been into space.
Like I said, talk
Were
to
they
any...
on our ship?
Does
Canada have a space program?
A lot of Canadians actually think that NASA stands for North American Space Administration because they want to be part of the club.
It makes
You
sense.
always have to burst their bubble.
Mexico too. Get them all in there.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to fly in a Canadian spaceship.
Really? So you're burying the Canadians in their engineering
whenever I
prowess.
think of a Canadian, I think of Bob and McKenzie, and I can see those guys. You get in the back. It's like, oh, how's it going, eh? We're prepared to blast off, hoser. You don't want to hear that on the microphone when you take it off. Man.
That's true. That's true. Well, Aaron, this has been riveting.
How did we get from the water to space again? I don't even know.
But let's talk about Subwar.
Oh, man. Subwar. When you think about the name, it's like a smaller part of an overarching larger war that happened in 2050. Maybe. I don't know about that. Boat, had you heard of Subwar before this week?
I think I have, actually. I think I had heard of Subwar.
Yeah.
We've done different submarine simulations over the years from Microprose. We've done the silent services and things like that. And I think that in doing research on that, this game, always came up as another option in the genre.
An option is now, we should mention that when it comes to Subwar, you had your choices here on the Amiga. It's one of those games. So this was originally out of DOS. Newsflash.
So this was, okay, and it was converted over.
93, bam, DOS.
Okay.
Then 94, the Amiga AGA version comes around, and then in 94, late 94, maybe the same time, the CD32 version.
Interesting.
I was surprised, because I talked to you about this the other night, and you're like, listen, you should try the CD32 version of this. And when you think about a game like this, because like Microprose has made a ton of games we played, like you mentioned. None of those games, to me, sound like something I'd play with a controller.
No, not at all.
And this one doesn't either. And so I've spent the majority of my time playing the AGA version. I think you said you spent the majority of your time playing the CD32 version.
No, I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it to work.
Oh, so. Really? Oh, there you go. So I guess we must say. And by the way, here's a wacky tidbit on this one. For whatever reason, 2013, I thought, let's release a Windows version of this. That's a Windows XP, Vista, and Windows 7, so that you can actually go buy.
Yeah, you get this is on Steam right now.
Very odd, but there you go. This was developed by an outfit called Particle Systems. This is all they did on the Amiga, and published, of course, by Microprose, who have done, so many games. Just to name something that we've covered, BloodNet, which that is the outlier, admittedly. Condensation, Covert Action, F-19. A 3D pool. It's a bunch of stuff. I will say, of all those, BloodNet is the most holiday appropriate, but it's also not as wacky.
Yeah.
This was designed by a fellow named Mike Brunton, and the producer. This was Tim Roberts. Tim Roberts does have a couple of Amiga credits: Fields of Glory boat and Tower of Babel, coded by Mike Powell, who did Power Drum Wonderland. The graphics were done by a whole host of people. I mean, they had the full team on this one. The musician on this, the ever-present, the omnipresent Alistair Brimble, who contributed such classics as Agony, Sound for All the Alien Breeds, the Dizzies, and tons and tons and tons. He's done it all. He's been there. This game was released on a CD or discs, of course, like we mentioned. And if you play on DOS, there was an expansion for this, which apparently Amiga never got.
Oh.
So just an FYI. It was called, and I like the name of the expansion, Subwar 2050, The Plot Deepens. Come on.
Hey, they got it in there.
That's not bad, Bo. So when this thing honed into view, Bo, your initial impressions as this thing, because when you're getting into something like this, you're in the deep end, no pun intended.
Well, I went through and I was dead set on playing the CD32 version. I went on Hall of Light and I looked at the manual. I was like, this is going to be great because I can control this whole thing from the controller. You thrust with the triggers, you're firing your missiles, your torpedoes with the buttons. Well, I couldn't get that to work, so I had to play the AGA version.
You love the sit on your hiney living room experience.
My favorite environment when I play video games is kick back in the recliner like a slug.
Yeah.
Just barely even moving my hands.
I've seen you do this for all occasions.
Yeah. I mean,
the only time I've seen you really actively dancing around is when we were watching the disco championship.
That did get me moving.
That got you moving.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Bo, you need to get you one of those Amiga Minis, the 8500 Minis. Perfect. Get a wireless controller. You're done, son.
Yeah, you're not
wrong. The keyboard's part of the gimmick.
Right.
You see?
Right. So anyway, I did get out the old wireless keyboard. I did sit in the recliner like a slug.
Yeah.
I fired this thing up. When you first sort of see it, you think, well, okay, this doesn't look so bad because instead of getting, the menu is done in an attractive way. It's a lot like Silent Service.
Yeah.
Where you are on the deck of a submarine and the different positions on the deck are your different options.
Yeah.
And so you can select your mission, you can select your pilot, you can outfit your sub with various equipment. There is a combat simulator pod that you can go into and fool around with. And
I didn't like the pod.
Yeah,
I had trouble getting the pod. I mean, I got it to work, but it was not that much fun.
I was never actually able to engage in combat in the pod. That was
that's a game-wide issue that we'll get into.
But overall, my first impressions, pretty positive. I was like, this looks like something that's approachable.
Yeah, this is when it comes to a submarine simulator, okay, you expect certain things, all right? But this is 2050. So you're not getting into like a usual sub. you're getting into some kind of future sub.
Right.
You know?
Right. And the future subs look a lot like the old World War II planes, where they have a really pointed nose and they paint the alligator teeth on the sides.
I thought they looked kind of like manta rays or something. But
well,
but the point of this is, like, if you're doing like F-19, like, some people know what an F-19 looks like, and so they're gonna be like, hey, the rivet in section B is wrong. You guys are all dumb.
Right.
So they cracked the code here. Just pick crap that doesn't exist, and then no one can give you the business, and you just make it however you want. And I think that gives you a certain amount of freedom when you delve into the not too distant future.
I'm going to give you the official lore behind this
I don't know
game.
the lore,
Okay.
bro.
The year is 2050.
I got that part. That's the only part I knew.
The ocean is the next frontier, and war inevitably reaches the depths of the sea. As an independent mercenary working for a corporate conglomerate, you pilot the latest fighter subs to protect the corporation's interests in exchange for cold, hard cash. With 5 different theaters of operations and an interesting mix of aerial-style submarine tactics, you'll be fighting fierce battles for corporate territory beneath the waves.
Yeah. That's simple and to the point.
Yeah.
We need money, go kill enemy.
Right.
There we go. That's the game. Now, since both mentioned the opening menu, we'll just briefly touch on it. This is where you select your pilot, go and fiddle with what sub you want, what's on the sub. You can set which mission you want to go on. Is it training mission? Is it one of the theaters? What do you want to do? You set that up, and you set your options, get everything ready to go. And then there's basically a begin, and then you can go on missions or you can go in the simulator. Once you've got everything set up, you hit the begin, and you take off. And so when you set your missions up, you've got was it six training missions in there, and then you can pick, and you can skip the training missions. You go right, which I don't recommend. I did that the first time, or you can just go right into the various theaters of combat. Once you've done all this stuff, you're in the sub, and so let's talk about what that's like. When you envision being in the water, okay, you sort of envision the top of the water, not necessarily the underwater part, because guess what? The underwater part is basically pitch black. And so that's sort of what they do here, because you spend a lot of time near the bottom in this game. And so they were in an interesting position here. How are we going to do this to make this, because otherwise it's just like space.
Right.
And so they did some, I think, fairly clever things to give you the feeling that you were underwater. They put a grid work over you which is basically like, I believe they call it heat layers that you go through, but it moves like waves. And it gives you the impression that you're in a liquid.
Right.
All right. I mean,
and they also put little, schmutz in the water that you pass by, dust and all that.
Right. And then there are whales down there. It's one thing that, of course, you're at the bottom of the ocean. Depending on where you're at, you're gonna be. It's not like there's tons of fish or anything down here. It's just like a big bunch of nothing most of the time. You can get confused real easily, and so they did some other clever things. They give you an artificial horizon. It's just a straight line that's right in the middle of the screen. You got to have it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm assuming real subs.
I would think so.
Like this,
I would think so.
Because it's really easy to get confused.
Right.
Even with that thing. They also give you've got like, this isn't like a silent search where you're actually going to different areas of the ship. You're basically setting at the control panel. You can access other things, but they don't have cool little rooms or whatever. And so all your information, it's sort of like F-19 in a lot of ways. You've got sort of the same kind of control panel. I played the Amiga C3 or the AGA version, so you use plus and minus to change your acceleration. You can there are 2 different ways to control your pitch and yaw, and that is, you can either have it just be straight left and right, sideways, or you can be free with it.
Right.
I don't recommend being free unless you have to be.
The strafing maneuver is much better.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to sort of angle downward.
Yeah.
Like if you're shooting
you got to aim down to go down as well.
Right. Well, Normally, I didn't use the free look thing if I didn't have to because it's easy to get crazy.
Yeah.
And I use the mouse to control it.
See, what I did was I would control my throttle with my right hand on the keyboard and then use my thumb on the PS4 stick on the analog.
Okay, I used the actual mouse to do that, and that may not have been the best method. Again, much like something like an F9, the more I think about this, the more this reminds me of F19 in a lot of ways because you like in your early missions, and I want to get your thoughts on some of these missions here in a minute. But the early missions are stuff like take your sub to the waypoints, shoot 4 things, go to the waypoint and then shoot things, shoot things, then go to more waypoints. It's training and they work okay. How quickly were you able to pick this thing up, Bo?
Pretty quick. This is a lot. I consider this to be a flight sim that just happens to be under the water. Like, what they've done is they've taken a lot of the frustrating parts about flight sims, and when you're underwater, you don't have to worry about, like, for example, when you're in the air, you got to be constantly moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay? When you're under the water, if you need to change direction, you can kill your throttle and then just move over to wherever bearing says where you need to go.
You're right.
And then throttle back up.
Yeah.
So this took a lot of the things that I normally find frustrating about flying games and made them less frustrating. It's a lot more like a space sim like Elite, flying your ship around in Elite, that sort of a thing. And especially with the waypoints and things like that, like when you're plotting a course to a sector in Elite, you're essentially doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You're flying from system to system, just like you're flying from waypoint to waypoint in this game. Luckily, there's no annoying docking sequence. You dock automatically when you reach the end of your mission.
The mission just ends.
Yeah.
They took a lot of the baloney out. You can something else you can do in this that you can't really do in like another thing. Game this reminds me of like Knights of the Sky, for example. It's like you can just hit the bottom. I mean, it may damage you, but like you're not dead.
Right. Exactly.
So you got that going.
Because you're not going a million miles an hour when
also,
you hit
if you're
the bottom.
tumbling, you just stop.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, where am I? Okay, now unless you're under fire, you're okay.
I thought that the way that they did the compass points was easy to figure out.
Yeah.
They say,
It's real
okay,
simple.
here's where you're going next. Head on this bearing. You're this far away, and go.
You've got buttons that will get you to different parts of the game. So like a map. It's not what I would call seamless. It's not really even attractive.
No.
But, I mean, you can do it. But it's not the best, is it? It's not the worst. So, I mean, we've seen it done better. And there is no, you don't really get a map on your main screen to speak of, which is a bummer.
Yeah, I found the map in this game to be borderline unusable, actually.
Well, I mean, it's almost basically, the only thing I ever used it for, if I was completely screwed, I'd be like, okay, where am I? Because the waypoints the system makes it easier. But just because there's a waypoint, I mean, it's where you need to be right that second.
Right.
And so sometimes I would just swim out somewhere and be boned and not know what was going on. So, yeah, the map was not the best.
And once you get out of the main view, the main cockpit view, all of the sub-menus utilize the ever-popular icon system.
Yeah.
And these icons are so low-res, and the contrast is so poor between the button and the symbol that I found all of that stuff to just be so super bad compared to the cockpit view, which is great.
These aren't the best symbols they chose either.
No.
It's funny, in the very opening screen where I'm in the room where you set everything up, so I went to pick a mission, and I picked a mission, and I was like, okay, how do I start this mission? And there are buttons and dials and crap everywhere, and none of them start the mission.
Right, exactly.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
But I sat there for like 5 minutes.
I did the same thing.
Oh, thank God.
I just kept.
I felt like a jack.
The screen kept popping up like, "Do you want to cancel? Do you want to cancel? No, I want to go."
Yeah, it's like I don't understand what's happening. So you set things up. So that's sort of. I mean, it's okay. The title screen where you say everything, but it's sort of also kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Like you could have done this in a menu that just kept going, as opposed to going all over the place. I don't know what they were going for there. I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like Wing Commander. You want to feel like you're on the bridge and you're walking around. It's sort of part of the immersion.
When I want to get immersed, I don't. Is immersed a word?
Yeah,
when I want to get immersed, I don't want to in my world. I'm not walking around the multiple menus. This is more like signing up for your classes at Marshall back in the day. It's like I need to. Where's my freaking advisor in the basement? All right, and roll in there. That's the way I felt. Amongst the other things you can do here to make this more sub-like, you've got active and passive sonar, pretty cool.
I did like what, as you're driving along, you'll pick up different life forms. They'll say like biological life form. You see a whale or something.
Sometimes you'll see the whales are in missions. Like there are missions where you have to do stuff to help the whales or to use them. I guess more to help them. I guess you can also do stuff like flood and blow your ballast. You got to.
Yep.
And my personal favorite, neutralize tanks, which is good because that's when you're like when your sub's going crazy. Hit that button. At least you're not going up
levels
or down.
you out. Yeah.
I wish I had that in real life.
Yeah.
I need to neutralize myself occasionally. I'm going bonkers. This game features a whole host of camera views that you would have come to expect. As I mentioned, you get cockpit, rear, flyby, blah, blah, blah. You can even have, if you've got wingmen, you can look at their view. Graphically, okay? So we know what a Micro Pro simulator brings to the table. They generally have the stuff we've just talked about.
Right.
How do you like the look of this? Do you think that they pull off the undersea situation for you to
I've got to be honest. For a 1994 game, this seems pretty dated.
Oh.
Pretty dated.
Okay.
I would expect higher fidelity graphics coming out of, especially the PC at this time. I feel like this is something that would be like a 91, 92 type thing. Just going off the way that it looks, the way that it runs. Because there's nothing here that is really pushing the boundaries of much.
It does have the look. It certainly has the feel of an early 90s Microprose game.
Yeah.
They had that feel. And I mean, and that's not a knock.
No.
Because the thing is, here's the game. It's a totally functional futuristic sub game. We haven't even talked about the missions and stuff yet. We'll get to it, but I mean graphically, I would like to have had some sort of like radar that I could see on the screen. You know what I'm saying? Like something cooler than what you get. You can flip through the different screens, but like I would like to have something a little easier to navigate.
Right.
But on flip side, they've got the waypoint thing. But in terms of the graphics in your cockpits, that they're okay. I would not call them exemplary. I would not call the game's graphics in general exemplary. I think they're okay. They're get the job done. Yeah. And like you said, the biological things you come across are kind of cool. Look at the enemy subs are kind of cool. You're often gonna and I can't attest to like later missions because I suck too bad to get anywhere past the first couple missions on the scenarios. And the scenarios, I'm guessing you tried some of the different scenarios. It's not like you're in the Bahamas, now you're in China, now you're in Mongolia. I mean, they're all you're underwater.
Yeah, that was really the most disappointing part because, like, when you look at the photos of the places you're going, it's like South China Sea. You're like, cool, and it shows, it shows like Shanghai or something.
You notice the photos were not shot at the bottom of Shanghai.
Right, exactly.
Good move, game, because otherwise, I will say if you're making this game, they're like, listen, we need 5 different unique scenarios. You're like, no problem. Because what do you got? You got to worry about.
Right.
When you do early missions, and I'll give an example. The first mission I did was go out and stop the bad guys' mine bots. All right? And do it stealthily. So what does that mean? Well, this is where it turns into like a sub game.
Right.
In something like 68 Attack Sub, for example, if you're moving like a maniac through the sea, tearing through, well, you're causing a churn that can be picked up by other subs. The same thing in this game. There's a bar on the right side of the screen, and when you fire up the sub, it will tell you how much noise you're making. So, and if you don't care, you fire that sucker up to full blast and go. What you will be doing in this game is the old accelerate time routine, which I used early and often to go from waypoint to waypoint, because unlike some other games where you might run into stuff, you're generally not going to run into anything. You're in the water. So I never had any trouble just accelerating time, zipping to where I wanted to get.
And it does make you wonder, like, if you can do that easily, why not put more stuff in there? Why not put a little bit of risk in there? Because otherwise, why would you not just accelerate time? And then it's like, why even have it in there at all?
I don't know. It's a good point. Once you, like, for example, in the first mission, you had the droids at the bottom, you shoot them. So now we're going to get into the combat portion of the game. You have multiple variant missiles you can pick and torpedoes. your torpedoes are more like guided, where your missiles are just like you just shoot at the whatever you got in your reticle. I found this to be, I mean, it works okay. There's a targeting device that sort of it looks sort of realistic, where there's a line that goes to the target, and there's a readout on your computer screen that says, okay, enemy or unknown or biological.
It's very elite-esque.
It's very elite-esque. And then you go up and you try to blow up these things. Now, combat in this, I did not necessarily find simple because it's hard to just not. It's hard to shoot stuff from distance. I found. And shooting stuff that's moving, I found particularly difficult.
There's no targeting mechanism like there are in a lot of these type of games where you can hit the T button and then it will hone in.
I thought I was doing something wrong because I tried like Game Bus just to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's nothing in the manual.
You'd think in 2050 they'd have targeting crap.
Targeting computers should be invented by 2050.
Now, is it easy to blow up mine robots? It's not that bad, but you've got to line it up. And so what you've got to learn to do is, and this is where you have to use the free movement as opposed to the four-way, is because you've got to get up on the bots and sort of aim down. These little bots can take a couple shots if they blow up.
Yeah.
And something else, I watched people play this online. I was laughing because they were blowing up these bots, but they were friendlies, which is weird because they're intermingled amongst the enemies all the time, or stuff that's not an enemy thing.
Right.
And so
there's another aspect of this game. When you finish missions, you get paid. And I never really figured out what to do with the money because it seemed like I could outfit my sub any way that I wanted. It wasn't like I was going to any kind of a store. So I don't know if that's a score mechanism or how that money eventually gets spent.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides when you only have a week to play something. If there's anything that goes on like 10, 15, 20 levels in, but I'm the same way. I saw that you got money, but I don't know what I assumed you would buy better armaments and whatnot. Now, more advanced missions are actually, there's some pretty unique missions in this. One I remember was a mission where you had to drop this device to lure these whales out of this pen. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see this one.
And so that one doesn't. You're actually trying to stealthily put this in to get these whales to come out of this area. I don't remember why. But that was kind of neat. Yeah. There's some stuff like that. There's some stuff where you're sneaking in and sneaking out with which is fun. The thing about submarines that I enjoyed was, and I'm not a big stealth guy, but it is kind of fun when you can sneak up on a sucker.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't the master of the sonar. I was not having the best luck knowing where I was.
There is I think a skill involved in switching between the passive and active. In some cases, you want to use one over the other. Yeah. So
there again, you get a goodly amount of missions on this. I think there's a lot of replay value here, and this is a game. Listen, I'm not the best at these sorts of games. However, this is a game that we've talked this before on some other games. This is a game that would be great to kind of wean yourself into classic flight simulators. And I know people out there that are just like super great at F-19 or Nights in the Sky or Super Huey or whatever, and that's fine. But some of us are too dumb or just don't understand how this stuff works. This thing I found you could get around with the waypoints. If I can get back and forth, I feel like that's a win right there. Yeah. And then not having to land.
Even just completing the training missions, I felt a sense of success being able to do that.
And this is a game where it doesn't make you feel like an idiot immediately. Right. Which is fine.
And I thought that like some of the missions that I tried were like, they weren't even combat oriented. It was more like you're going to patrol this area and you need to identify the craft that are in this area. Yeah. And it's like, but you need to stay away from them because you don't want them to be alerted by your presence. Yeah. Stuff like that. I thought there was a pretty good variety of missions. Like you said, the whale one.
Well, these guys are clever, too. I mean, they know what they're doing. So I think this would be a good jumping on point for some people that want to move their way up to the more advanced stuff. Because I thought this was pretty fun. Now, again, I wish I had a better idea of where I was, the reckoning occasionally, and
the whole submenu system, all of that needs to be reworked.
Really, the problem I've got with this game, this is the downside for me. And again, I thought we both agreed the graphics are serviceable. Like, Nights in the Sky is not what I'd call this beautiful game. But I mean, there's still stuff to see. Like, there's not that much to see in this.
I would have preferred
It's
to have
bleak.
seen, yeah. And I mean, obviously, they're going for realism. When you're really down there, it's dark.
Yeah.
But what I would have liked to have seen is add a whole lot more bioluminescent creatures, big octopuses and giant squid.
Yeah, it is surprising, but I mean, of course, I don't know if they were like, listen, the bottom of the sea, there's not a ton of crap that lives there.
Right.
But still, we could lie.
Yeah.
There's also not futuristic stuff.
It's a video game.
You know, now I'm assuming this was probably stretching the abilities. This is an AGA game. This is probably nearing the upper echelon of what you're going to get out of the Amiga.
Probably so.
And so that could have been part of the. I mean, it's the same reason. Like, you could actually go in there and change detail levels on this thing. I don't know if you noticed that. So
Yeah.
You can turn. You can change.
You can change the texturing of the
you
polygons.
Can change, you can give them texture, take it away. You know. Which did you fool with that at all?
I put everything up on high. Just
I mean,
played it that way.
it ran okay.
Yeah.
But of course, we're not using A500
Right.
on this. But this wouldn't run an A500. So I thought it was okay. I think there's something to be had there. It's not my favorite just because I like something with a little more to look at. To be honest with you, but it was at least different, and I'll give the guys credit for that. Did we get any action on this?
We did. We got a couple reviews on Discord this week, as always. If you're just tuning into the show for the first time, if you're a member of our Discord community, you can post reviews that we will read on the air. Our first review comes from Level Lord. He says, I've had high hopes for this game since it's not overly complicated, and it was ranked pretty high when it was released. Subwar 2050 is an arcade simulation game where focus is more oriented towards action than simulation, completely opposite of Red Storm Rising, let's say. Basic submarine functions are still present, like passive and active sonar control and control over ballast tanks, and, well, that's it. Graphics and sound effects are nice. Music can play, too, with the sound effects on. We didn't talk about that. Did you turn the music on in the game while you played? Oh, I did. It was great. Very atmospheric music. That added a lot to it for me. And the music gives the player an atmospheric illusion of deep water with occasional whale echo. Like most of the simulators, there are a bunch of external views, and there are even wingmen present in the game, a repair screen, and a ridiculously unusable map.
Him too.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel better if the Lord says it.
Combat part was hard for me, and not because of the actual enemies, but because of the constant struggle I had with the jumpy bearing and clumsy controls. Tried using the mouse, but that was even worse because there was a significant lag between mouse and projected movement on the screen. Maybe it was the emulator, so I kept using a joystick. Another issue was the throttle, which had a mind of its own and 2 speeds, full forward and almost stop. I know this game was revolutionary when it was released, and I enjoyed it back in the day. Playing it now and for a few days, I can say it did not age very well, at least not for me. 6 out of 10.
He sort of echoed a lot of what we said there, Bode. I will say that.
Absolutely.
And he knows his stuff, so I feel less like an idiot now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pajako6502 chimes in. He says, technically very impressive with a lot of stuff crammed in, maybe too much. Now, I know that all games of this era were a rinse and repeat kind of affair, but everything in Subwar 2050 really just felt like go here, shoot the things, and come home. In between, the whole game was very sparse with not much going on, which, yes, I know is down to the technical limitations at the time, but when you look at Elite, for example, there was a whole sub-game underneath. And on that note, this just could have easily have been a space game and you would barely notice. I like the visuals and the audio was quite immersive. The menus were clunky and having to close them without being able to navigate between pages is irritating. I also didn't like how waypoints wouldn't always be on my HUD, making the whole navigation system feeling a bit old school. I really would have liked some kind of radar on my screen rather than text. I've played other games of this type and enjoyed them more, and I will freely admit that I only spent about an hour with this game, but I just couldn't get into it. Maybe you'll like this, but not for me. 5 out of 10.
You know, you mentioned something there we probably should bring up with the waypoints. I like the waypoint system. I like the fact that the little arrows tell you which way to go, and it gives you the bearing. But he's right. You're not always going to see those waypoints.
Right.
And that can be discombobulating.
Yeah.
You know, and also when it comes to this speeding up and slowing down, like I kept hitting a button I shouldn't have from another game, one of the Micro Prose games. So the buttons aren't exactly the way they were. Like you can't just hit the number buttons to go up and down. And so that was kind of weird. I looked up the reviews on this boat. By the way, this is apparently quite a popular PC game. It was 18th, voted 18th greatest game of all time in PC gamers. So the dog people liked it. The people over at Lemon gave this thing an 8.09. And the various magazines, I mean, it's straight, pretty much 80s across the board. Amiga Action, Amiga Format, Amiga Joker, Amiga Power, all gave it scores in the 80s. The only outlier was AUI, gave it a 74. So the average magazine rating on this was 81. That's probably a fair score, I think. So. I mean, this is not a bad game. It's just not.
It's hard. Yeah, a lot of times, simulations just don't age well because we become used to a certain quality of life.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not a game that listen, I'm not usually a graphics guy, but I mean, this one's murky.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem with the C. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like Ringo was way off in real life. You know, Octopus's Garden sounds good on paper.
Not in real life.
Yeah, although it sounded great when we saw him live in concert.
That's right.
Yeah. I looked this up on the eBay boat to see what we'd be looking at. I saw these sell the big box for the Amiga CD32 sell between $30 and $45. Although apparently these can go for substantially more. And I'm looking at the asking prices on here, and a lot of people are asking between $60 and $100. It seems to me someone told me that the AGA version of this was much rarer, and it seems to be so because I'm looking here on eBay and I don't see any of the eBay one, or the disc-based one. So if you've got one of those, you might have something dandy. So what's your final thoughts on this boat?
You know, this is one that you should try if you're at all interested in sub-sims for the Amiga. Just you have to be prepared that the deep sea is cold, and it's dark, and it's lonely.
That's the way you say it, but well done.
If you ask any Amiga repair technician what the most problematic component of a motherboard is, they'll undoubtedly mention capacitors. The electrolytic capacitors that shipped with the Amiga are 30 years old or older at this point, and each one is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode battery acid all over your motherboard, sometimes damaging it irrevocably. Don't wait. Replace your capacitors now. Full capacitor kits for every Amiga model are available now at RetroRewind.ca. Don't want to attempt the repair yourself? Use their white glove recap service and leave the intricate removal and soldering process to the professionals using industry standard equipment. Use the promo code Amigos10 at checkout and save 10% off your cap kit or service. Remember, make RetroRewind.ca your first stop for all your Commodore computer needs.
Amiga News.
All right, Boat, here we go again, my friend.
You know, Aaron, this week on the news, our first story is a very special story because these guys started around the same time that we did.
Yeah.
Back in 2015, two guys, Dan and Ravi, along with their buddy, Jeff, I think.
Mr. Fox.
Mr. Fox. They started a little show called the Retro Hour.
Yeah.
And they didn't stop. And just like us, they kept on trucking. They have hit episode 400, and what an episode this one is. This is an interview with one of the main designers from Monkey Island, the Scum engine, Aaron.
It's the two-parter. I'm listening. I'm in the first part right now. Mm-hmm. You know, I catch Retro Hour, especially when they've got a guest that I'm really into. But hey, congratulations, fellas. The guys over there have always been super nice to us and super supportive. Of course, your boy, the Ravster, Ravi, and the whole gang over there.
Joe Fox, thank you, not
Joe
Jeff Fox. Yeah.
Dan, both of those guys put out some really good video stuff. Mm-hmm. It's funny that Dan and Ravi put out they're underrated for their incredible good videos.
Oh my gosh.
You don't see it like
some of the best
Ravi stuff. That stuff's really good.
Ravi's Amiga documentaries are second to none.
I'm sad that because I loved what he was doing there. I thought it was really good. Of course, you get some flack when you get that Amiga history or whatever. Yeah. There's always some suckers that don't like where you're going. Plus, we don't want to forget about his DJ and stuff. So, congratulations on hitting the big 400. That show is off the charts popular, and it just good things happen to good people. So, congratulations, fellas. I was really happy to see that.
Absolutely. Now, Aaron, we got some gaming news this week. There's a game called Project Quest that we haven't talked about in a while. We mentioned this a couple months ago. They've got a new level out right now. This is a top-down shooter, sort of your Commando style or your Chaos Engine style game, but it's set in a medieval setting. You can download this right now. This is coded in Amigos. Doesn't give us a what we need. Oh, it looks like it's playable on an OCS machine with 2 megs of RAM, so you don't need a Super Amiga to play it.
Look how beautiful
this looks great, man.
Yeah.
It looks great.
That
looks
really nice. I don't think we haven't played this, have we?
No, because
this is the one that was in the Game Jam and everything. I don't remember this.
Yeah. So this is Electric Black Sheep is the name of the developer.
Look how nice that looks.
Yeah,
and I love this is the kind of thing. I wonder if you can get a little multiplayer on this. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. So
that looks nice.
We're going to continue to keep an eye on this and maybe even cover it on the show once it comes out.
There's so many good things coming out. Oh God, it's just so different from when we started.
Oh yeah. Speaking of good things, El Capitan Torino.
Well said.
This is, it's described by Neil over at Indie Retro Games as a rather unusual Amiga game developed by using Red Pill. Of course, Red Pill, the sort of also ran to the Scorpion engine.
Oh, you got to rag on the Red now?
Listen, you've got to. But for those of you that are still slogging it out with the Red Pill, you could do what this has got a kind of.
It looks fine. you got a little. It's almost like a sort of sedan.
Exactly.
In a rainbow world.
It's like in the Sega Fantasy Star universe.
Look how huge the dude is. Look at the big graphics. This is not for little people. It's a big dog.
It's a big man's game.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your Sensible Soccer, the little tiny gimmicks. I like a big, beefy looking sucker. This looks pretty good too, Boat.
As we know with the Red Pill engine, you can't be chugging along with an A500 and get these things to go. You got to have 2 megs of RAM and an 020 minimum.
Oh, so it's an A1200 you're in. That's not bad. I'm assuming that's what they're playing this on. Yeah, it does look like it's a little chuggy. But I mean, so is this in production or is this out, Boat?
This is, it says that it is now, I believe it is now out. You can download it right now. I'm looking up to see. It looks like that you can get this from Aminet. They have that big LHA archive. And I believe that you can play this right now. Captain, this is based on the Capitan Torino comics.
Man.
So
are you familiar with the comics?
No, I think this is maybe a Spanish rag.
Is it? Look at this Boat. He's
getting chased by a big spider. I like that. I like
that's a smart hero. When you see one of those things coming, you're gone.
I'm gonna rescind my earlier comments. This game's actually growing on me.
Look at those spiders.
Yeah, it does look good.
It looks like a comic book.
It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good.
Yeah. Well, good job, guys. That's what happens, Boat. See, sometimes it's not the tool, brother. It's the person using the tool.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
I'm just the tool.
Well, I didn't say it, but yeah.
And finally, Aaron, we have the long-awaited, never duplicated 10-mark trip report from AmiWest 2023, America's largest Amiga event.
Yeah, I watched this video with the Dougster as he went around. Man, I would love to buy stuff here. That's about my takeaway is get cheap crap at AmiWest. Because there were tons of crap here. I was like, oh, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like when we went to Cocoa Fest. People blow stuff out. They bring stuff because they want to get rid of it.
You're right, because Cocoa Fest, there's cheap goodies, too. I mean, you loaded up.
Oh, yeah.
You made out like a double bandit. I was, too cheap at the time. And I also didn't want to carry a bunch of crap, I'll be honest. But plus, I couldn't carry crap in that outfit. But this,
I was in that auction early and often.
This looks great. There's a lot. The funny thing about the Amiga, your higher end Amiga owners, it's like if we have a sports car. You don't just have like I've got some Amigas in there.
Right.
That's for suckers. They've got Amigas with stripes and lights and boom boxes strapped to them and all kinds of crap going on. And I appreciate that. They had some unique stuff here that you don't see that often. Of course, Doug's going around. Everybody knows Doug. They kind of gave Doug the business a couple times, which was funny. A little joke action. They had speakers, the whole 9 yards. I mean, listen, we looked at AmiWest years ago. We burned our bridge out there, and it looked like it was about 20 people there. It looked like they held it like a cafeteria because it was COVID was going on. And they kept the ball rolling. I'll give them credit. This right here. This was no joke, brother. This was the full deal.
Completely back.
And it's
completely back.
It's more than back. It's up. It's like the phoenix from the ashes. And now they're stronger than ever because more people are in the Amiga. The community's picked up. More people are interested. And I saw not just Amigas here, but I saw Spectrums and TIs. And also, there are people that are bringing their classic computers out to play. And it's a glorious thing. It's great to see. You think about this, Boat. that this is the biggest Amiga show in North America, okay, or in the United States. I don't know, because the Canadian ones are pretty huge, right?
Well, I don't know if you count, like, something like World of Commodore, obviously, is tons bigger, but it's also not a strictly Amiga show.
But, I mean, we watch all the stuff that happens over in Europe and Germany and in the UK, Rabbi's thing. They're getting all these huge things, and I think we're going to be getting some of that soon.
Yeah.
I think we're on the way
to
getting some of that, and that's okay with me.
Me too, man.
I'm down with the clown on that, because... hey, listen, the Amiga, sorry to break it to you people, but it was born here in the US of A. You know, that's one of our babies. And I would like to see people here learn about their own thing. You know, we all know about, Nintendo, which isn't from here. We all know about the Sega, which isn't from here. This is from here.
Right.
Get in there.
Yeah, Sega actually from here, but...
Sega wasn't built here, was it? I know. But I mean, they're not from here now. I've never been for a long time.
Aaron... That's going to do it for this week's Amiga News.
That was some good news, Bo.
Sort of a light news week, but but all the stories were quality.
I think so. Now, again, congratulations to the Retro Hour. Congratulations to Amy West.
And congratulations to El Capitan Torino.
Yeah. You really turned the corner on the El Capitan.
Did. I love him now. I love him.
Beautiful.
Listen, Aaron, we've had some things going on the old YouTube channel lately.
We did okay. We've got a couple things to talk about real quick. We released a new Coco show this week on Middle Kingdom. This one sort of flew on the radar for a lot of people, but I think they would enjoy the backstory of this thing, because it's crazy the path it went from going from the BBC Micro to the Coco in a weird way. We had a lot of fun on that one. We also released the third Conversation with the Dark Side. It's Halloween as we record this. It's coming. And this time out, I was flying solo, but I interviewed a local professional ghost hunter to get all the tricks of the trade. It was actually a lot of fun. People that listened to it told me they really enjoyed it. So if you're in that sort of thing, if you're not into ghost hunting, you just want to hear about what that kind of tools they use or the experience they had, I think you get a kick out of it. And, we'll be at it one more time. There'll be one more Conversation of the Dark Side. It'll be coming out on Halloween.
But it's being filmed two nights.
And it'll be coming out on Halloween, and we'll see how that one goes. And then we'll be back to our normal schedule in the next couple weeks. And I will announce that a week from tonight, I'll be recording my stream tribute to everyone's favorite Edgar Vigdahl of Deluxe Galaga fame. I'm going to try to play everything he ever did, including the weird demos that were never even released that are playable. I'm going to break those out. So that should be a lot of fun. We'll learn a little bit and play a lot of good games, Bo.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. All right, Aaron, what do we got coming up next week?
Let's have a look, Bo.
Narco Police.
Really? Narco? I never heard of it.
You need to do some research over at the KSP. Ask around, hey, you know anybody on the Narco Squad?
The Narco Police. I'll tell you what. Seems like that'd be the place to get stationed.
That's true.
It's like they're still dead, sir. Listen.
Are you sure you don't mean the Necro Police?
We need to well, you're right. I was thinking, what's the thing with narco?
Narco is like narcotics.
Oh.
It's the drug police.
I never thought of it that way. You're right. The whole time I thought of it as necro. And I thought to myself, you're gonna put a car, we're gonna stake it at the graveyard. They're not leaving, Chief. Send more donuts.
It sounds like a good gig for sure.
And the narco police, I work there.
I was gonna say you can bring your specialized knowledge.
That's every cop in Kentucky's on the narco police. I can tell that right now.
Have you heard of this stuff? I was listening to Rogan this morning. Have you heard of this stuff called Tranq? TRANQ?
I've heard the term. I don't know.
So they're lacing fentanyl now.
Oh.
With horse tranquilizer. Okay, because it's supposed to make it last longer.
Oh yeah.
But the horse tranquilizer is so strong, your body physically tries to reject it, and it causes these huge sores to break out, and they're having to chop people's arms off.
No kidding.
Yeah.
One would wonder, because I don't know. Attention to people. I'm sort of a member of the narco police. I'm going to release a police statement right now. Fentanyl is triple deadly.
Right.
And so it's like saying we're going to lace the dynamite with like hand grenades.
Yeah, crazy. It's like, why don't they just make so you shoot yourself up and then you're just dead? Because that's what you're doing.
The new drug should just be put this thing in your mouth and pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It's the exact same. It's cheaper,
it is.
too.
It is. It's crazy.
God, what's wrong with people, Bo?
It's insane.
Everyone that's out there on drugs, get an Amiga.
Yeah.
Will that work?
I think that'll work.
Okay,
That's the new Nancy Reagan push, I hear.
I'm the new Nancy Reagan. I can live with that. Give me some jelly beans, bro.
All right, guys, as always, if you'd like to support our show, patreon.com/Amigos Podcast. We want to thank our super moderator over on Twitch, Super Tech Boy, for dropping the links, keeping everybody in line, and wielding the band hammer.
That's right. Well done, sir.
Guys, we'll see you next time, and until then, adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos Podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.